On, you press the little person icon. I guess I should turn this one on too.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Philip Dixon, Chairman of the Board of Architectural Review, and we welcome you to our BAR meeting this evening. It's now past 6 o'clock on the 3rd of May, and it's time scheduled for the meeting to begin. Depending on the size or complexity of a project, each applicant has the opportunity to present a conceptual or a master plan for our review prior to committing funds for a full set of design plans and specifications. Approval of a concept means that we might agree with the concept while disagreeing with some of the details. It also means that each phase of the project must be submitted at a later date once plans are more fully developed to obtain the board's final approval for that individual portion of the project. Hopefully, any disagreements will have been worked out before the applicant comes back before the board. For those of you who are maybe new to our meeting, our charge is to look at each project purely on the aesthetics, design, architecture, height, mass, and scale, and in harmony with the historic district in the town of Somerville. We look at the overall street scene. Although we're not required to solicit comments from anyone other than the applicant and the board members, except for demolition requests, we usually choose to allow others to express comments that might help influence our decision making after the applicant has presented the project to the board members and the board members have resolved any questions that they might have. Because this is the only project that we've got this evening, but still we ask that you, if it's not your project, that you do give us not more than about 5 minutes for question. As always, we will review each submittal in the order it was submitted. And this time we only have one project, but the first order is to approve the minutes of our last meeting, which were sent to board members for review prior to this meeting.
I so move.
And a second?
Y'all, I think we're gonna have to defer this just because Jeff wasn't there.
Neither one of us were.
Oh, you weren't there either, that's right. So we'll defer it to the next meeting so they can vote on, or whoever was here can vote on
Well, I
it.
guess I can second. I was here. Are there any? Please answer. Even though you weren't here, you can still approve or disapprove them. David,
Yes.
Nancy, Jean,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
and mine's yes. So the minutes are approved from last week. The project on our list tonight is 114 West 5th South Street. New construction of a garage, office, and front porch addition to existing project.
I'm gonna go ahead and read the letters that were sent in first, and then y'all can present, and I'll go through the slides and discuss the project. This is from Clay and Sandy Thornton. To whom it may concern, both Sandy and I have reviewed the plans by Rachel Burton, AIA, for the new addition of a garage and office for Robert and Candace Pratt, located behind the old Squirrel Inn, 114 West 5th South Street. We have no objections to the proposed. Please do not hesitate to reach at the above address or phone if you have any questions or concerns. Most sincerely, Clay and Sandy. To Robert Pratt in town of Somerville, my wife and I have looked at the plans and have no objection to the garage going on the Roberts property. Thank you for sharing the drawings. Catherine and Jimmy Tupper, 223 Sumter Avenue. I have reviewed the Pratt residence plan, which shows a new accessory building and additions by Swallowtail Architecture LLC, dated 4/8/22. After reviewing the plans, I have no objection to the request. And that is from the Collins at 219, Sumter Avenue. In the same letter, I've reviewed the Pratt residence plan, which shows an accessory building and additions by Swallowtail Architecture LLC, dated 4/8/22. After reviewing the plans, I have no objection to the request. And that is from Mr. Stokes at 219A Sumter Avenue. That's it.
Okay, so you want me to sign in?
Yes, please.
Okay. And, Robert may talk to you.
I couldn't get it to turn off, so you're gonna have to just speak loud.
Speak loud.
Yes.
Okay. I feel like I am much better prepared for this than when we came before you to get our windows approved for the first half, because by Zoom, plus the window company had told me they were going to take care of that. So we were really shocked when we got a phone call, because we took my brother to supper and he was from Arizona, but we handled it with Zoom and y'all were very patient. Thank you so much. Okay. So tonight we're hoping we're a little bit better prepared. Hopefully it's not too complicated. I did print some things. Do any of you want a printed copy? Would that be of any help to you? Some of you have already printed, and I also attached some pictures. And I'm going to give. Need anything? And I have several sets. I can give one to staff, and I can give one to the neighbors that have come also.
Thank you.
All right. So, y'all want to share that? Okay. Also, okay. This has been an interesting project, and we're by no means finished, but we are here trying to make sure that the concept is something that's going to work, because we don't want to go to official plans, building plans, until we know that we're on the right track. It's a challenge because this is two houses that were pushed together. So to get it to look reasonably acceptable, we're trying our very best. And if you look at, if there's a, I think I gave you, yes, but did you get in the package anything that showed where it sits on the lot or not?
I have the site plan sitting up
Okay,
there.
Site plan's up. You know, look on your screen, it's a site plan, okay? We originally, when we came in, if you'll go to your top right-hand corner, we wanted to put the garage on that side of the house. But we discovered in doing a title search that there is actually a 10-foot, a 20, a 30-foot easement. It's labeled 10, but it's a 30, there's a setback labeled 10. But there is a 30-foot easement from the front of the street all the way to the back of our lot line, which prohibited us from putting a structure in that space there. So we had to defer and go to the other side, which is not really what we wanted to do, but this is the only place that our garage and the ancillary building we wanted to do. So this is the only place we've been able to locate what we want to do. We need a garage. We're like all other Americans. We've got way too many vehicles, that kind of thing. But we want to accommodate them and not have them be unsightly for our neighbors. And Robert and I both do work from home, and that the structure, even though we're renovating it, is very small. And we are going to need an office that we can walk to and work. And then beyond the office is another little place that we can park our golf cart, and also could be a covered area that we could have, you know, an outside gathering in or something. So, and I wanted just to ask, well, all right, I will mention, because this is the architect originally drew it with a metal roof on all the new structure. We have since changed that, and we want to do a shingle roof to match the existing shingle roof. We had almost come to that decision. Actually, one of our neighbors we talked to said, why don't you just do it in shingle? You just put that roof on not long ago, and it's a nice architect shingle, so why don't you do that? And the more we thought about it, so we wanted to mention that.
So Margaret Collins.
That Margaret Collins did that, and we do want to change that, and I've told Rachel that we want to do that. The other thing is, if you will look at this proposed front elevation, every time I look at this, the garage looks taller than the existing structure, but I have been assured that it will be equal in height, and so that will be a very even look there. And it is not connected, it sits back behind the existing structure. You might want to know about color. I don't know if you want to know that. We probably would do that on final. Existing now is that yellow color. I took pictures. It's likely it will be white. And we just like white and crisp looking property. So I would just try not to overdo it and just see what questions you have and see if Robert and I address them.
What did you end up doing with the windows that we?
We did exactly what you told us to do, and the new windows are actually in the picture that I took, okay? Okay, look at, well, that's the old pictures.
The 2/2 windows?
The 2/2 is what we did. I just took these pictures on the 27th. But now we've only done the pictures, we've only done the windows. That's not correct. Those windows are not correct in that. We've only done them in half the house because we have not had access to the other part because we have a tenant in the other house until June 30th. But I was going to ask you if you would consider allowing staff to address our windows so we could get them ordered once we contract with them to the windows that you've asked for in the past. And if you'll look at the photo I attached, those are the 2/2 windows.
Those are going to be all the windows then? These two?
All of the windows will be 2/2, yes, and all of the doors will be the all of the doors will be the full side lights, just as you approved the other doors. Okay. Those you have to.
No, that's a fixed one.
There are 2 fixed windows, 3 fixed windows, pardon me. There are 3 fixed windows. Side window. See this fixed one right here? There are 2 other large ones as you first drive up. You know. Long time ago. 35 years. Okay.
Well, when it comes to the windows, there's no reason not to allow them to replace the others with the same thing, right?
Nope.
That's,
That would be okay. Staff would I would submit our contract.
I would think so, right?
Because that way we could go ahead and get the windows approved, ordered, so that as soon as the tenant moves, we can start the renovation and then get the windows in, because that's half the battle is getting the windows in place. Sealing the
Is that a
house.
problem?
No, I guess I'm just a little confused. So you're doing 2/2 for everything. So what's shown on the plans?
We're doing 2/2 for everything that is a window that goes up and down.
Okay,
And for the new construction.
okay.
Now, there are some windows on the back. Look, I gave you a back picture. I can't be able to see it. Share this picture.
So the way I would handle that is that if the board's okay with it, obviously I'm fine with it, but the drawings will have to be revised to match that. Yeah.
Okay. drawings for drawings. Yeah, I don't think she was aware of the windows, what we have been through.
And if she could call out which windows are
would be
fixed.
different. And we're not looking at the back right now because it didn't make the submittal. We're gonna put a big deck off, but we're gonna add that later. And there are some windows in a sunroom now, right here. They're a little wind up when, they're not energy efficient and all, and we've got to decide what we can put there. So we probably would just not order those until we can come back to you for formal approval of those. Okay. But we would ask that anything that's a normal everyday window, we'd like to do the 2/2, and we'd like to do the front door the way the back doors that were approved.
Is that okay, Becca? You got that?
Yep.
Okay.
Eyes the drawings.
And just if you could ask Rachel to call out which windows are fixed and which windows aren't, because it's can't really tell that from drawings
Can't
even.
really tell.
I mean, you could guess which ones are and which ones
These
aren't.
are the ones that go up in that.
Yes,
or that
just,
go up,
just so it's
because they only go up.
right.
Okay. Okay. All right. David, any other questions on that?
And y'all, this is just conceptual, so you're not going to be voting.
Yeah, we're just,
Yeah.
the porch, right now, the poor little porch is about to fall off the house. Literally, it really is. So we're going to add a reasonably good front porch, because that's really coming in front of the house now. And the little porch to the far right of the existing second house before you get to the garage, that is a little screen porch. Our intent right now is just to re-screen that and leave it as a little porch. So, those little windows in that peak of that middle house and to the far left, I don't know what we're gonna do with those. We'll probably, right now, they're just, almost like just plexiglass there. So
What are they open to?
yeah, it really does just look like plexiglass, and so I don't know if we'll try to put something there to offer
Is there any-
circulation
Is there any living space behind them?
behind those windows.
Yeah.
Oh, no, there's no action space.
Why don't you just put in louvers?
Louvers would be fine.
Like a-
In the peak, the louvers would be great. Now, the one to the far left, as I'm facing it, that is a little window of some sort.
Is it fixed now? Plexiglass fixed, or is it open?
I don't think it opens.
It
I have never been in that side of the house.
It could-
Robert has.
I used to live there, but I can't tell you. I don't remember.
could successfully just remain a single pane.
Just a single pane fixed.
That's what
Yeah,
I
it's
would
probably
think.
gonna be in a
Yeah.
closet, and so it would just add some natural light in the closet without being disrupted, you know?
If you're not gonna, if you're not gonna make any changes there, just leave it alone. Don't make it part of the project. That'll just add to the project.
Well, we're not gonna, I mean, concept wise, this is what it's gonna look like, except we've got to change it to the 2. Okay. And the garage doors, we hope will be as similar to that as possible. Garage door orders are not going real well right now, but maybe by the time we get to them, they'll go well. Okay, so.
And you're gonna drop the top of the garage.
Yeah,
To the-
and I've
to the-
talked to Rachel about that. I said, Rachel, you know, we need to be the same height. Actually, in the drawing that I gave you, it is a little better, but,
Well, it's easy to fix.
Yeah.
but it's supposed to be the same exact height. Because that's what we wanted. We wanted it to be symmetrical.
I think it'll look good.
No other questions?
Try to bring us the real garage doors when you get to that point.
Bring you the garage
With
doors.
the images of the real garage doors you want.
Bring garage doors. And we'll try and have it all cleared up by the time we ask for final, as far as making sure those little fixed windows are handled correctly. And okay? And we'll handle the back at that time. Too. That's just, all of a sudden, we decided we better do conceptual, and we just didn't have time to get the deck drawn. We'll bring that in.
So
And
if you
it
want,
ain't quite right, we'll tweak it. It's fine.
Yeah.
one of the things you brought up was how to deal with that sunroom.
Yes,
Those,
I don't know what to do about those.
If you
windows
wanna come
because it is
by-
living space, so.
you want to come by and see Jennifer's almost finished workshop, studio, she shed, whatever. We have got paired wind out windows with, I think they're 2/2 grid patterns.
They are too.
Yeah. But you can come by and see what a wall, or you can get them as as paired or as threes or as fours.
Okay.
And then you can,
Well, it's really kind of a shame because the windows do function really well and all, but my gosh, they just leak hot air or cold air like terribly. So
well, you
really
can,
bad.
you can get these, granted, probably a good deal more expensive than what you have New South or somebody like that. Yeah, so I think what we got, oh, well, one of those companies, but that's a solution.
Well, thank you. We'll come out and look at that.
Watch out for the killer Yorkie.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
I think you made a nice presentation.
No, I think it's fine.
We do have a neighbor of ours present, and they might have questions. They live in the Squirrel Inn, and are curious, because we've had somebody in there working for over a year trying to get the smoke out and get the fire damage taken care of, and it's been a real.
When did it catch fire?
During the March.
Ouch.
And it didn't affect the other side, Joe
Well,
Egan's side?
there was a lot of smoke damage in the attic, but they worked in his attic and sprayed soda blasting or whatever it was. And they worked on that and put new insulation over there, but he didn't have any damage in his wiring or anything. We had to rewire. It was a surprise. We have restoration contractor. I don't know if I'm missing anything else that I should
It might be beneficial to have Rachel do a rendering.
do.
I know I wouldn't really call it a streetscape rendering because you can't see it from the street, but basically it's almost like a picture, but it's a illustration that architects do so you can see kind of less from like a flat 2D perspective. That might be helpful because I know it's with all of these lines kind of right in front of you. It can look like they're all in line, but they're not. So it can be helpful.
That made me think about, we will be putting shutters on the front, as you can see. And hopefully we'll get them all operational. I have a friend that owns Withers Industries. So I'm hoping I can get to make the shutters and I'll have those. At least a rendering of those so that
Picture examples are fine too for certain materials, like Nancy Jean was saying, for like, if you find a picture of a garage and you can get it, but you haven't picked a manufacturer yet, that
would
is.
do.
Mhm.
Okay. And we're just, the house itself has asbestos shingles on a good part of it. So the new part will not have the asbestos shingles. It'll be more, hardy plank.
As long as it's the smooth finish, that typically is approved.
Hardy plank smooth.
Preferably the thicker,
So,
preferably the thicker.
oh, yeah. Absolutely. Okay. So no questions on the plot plan, all of that looks okay.
Yeah, like I said, when you guys submit for the permit, those trees that you're gonna need to remove, some of them may need to go before the board. I'll let the arborist make that decision, because, typically I would say, no, you need to move it if it's a grand tree. But in this case, it's within the footprint of what you're wanting to do, so it's really gonna depend on the health of the tree.
Well, what we got is we have some really trees that all grown together,
Mhm.
different species. And
Mhm.
It's just like they just through the years just grown up and they're unmanaged.
Well, and you have enough trees on that property that even if you did have to remove them, most likely you wouldn't need to plant back.
We'll work on that whatever way we have to.
Yeah, but that'll be handled at permitting. You don't have to worry about that now.
question.
Did
I
you
have
all-
one question. So you did say that the garage, that's just an illusion. It is going to be reset.
It's going to be the same height as the
No.
house,
No, setback.
but it is set back.
From the main structure, right?
Okay, look at, see the drawing? See right there where the garage wall is, the front? See, here's the new.
Oh, I
porch,
see.
And then the garage sits back. It's hard to tell from the drawing, but it sits back.
The garage can't be closer to the front property line than
Yeah,
the
we're
primary
within
residence.
setback.
Okay, that
See,
was
we have
great.
all those setbacks that we have to follow.
Looks wonderful.
Love what you're doing. We lived through it. It's a labor of love. I want this little house to make it somehow. I want to live in it. Convince my husband of that.
He's left.
So,
I say he's left you,
There he is.
coming back.
oh, we got a phone call. Oh, we had to call. Oh, that call from. We got it from our granddaughter too, so. 4-year-old, so.
I think you're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Thank you. And we'll come back, hopefully we can come back for final and have all the things you want. And we'll work with Becca, and if there's something that you really need to pin down, we'll try and pin that down.
Yeah, and these recordings are posted online, so I can send you the link if you want to watch the meeting again and kind of go over anything that you feel like you might have missed, or if you want me to go over it and get clarification, I'm happy to do that.
Robert, you want to say anything? No. He does, this is my project. He just wants to go
Becca,
over.
Becca, we don't need any vote on this since it's
Nope.
conceptual.
Mhm.
We've given you all the comments and so
Okay.
hopefully wish you well on it. We'll see you in a month or so.
See you in a few months. I don't know if we can make, I know we can't make the next meeting, but a couple of months from now. So. All right, thank you very
Okay.
much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. That was easy, short meeting. That was great. That's kind.
All right, y'all, we're gonna go over the proposed changes to the guidelines. I printed you a copy of what Rachel and Tim have sent back in response to the email that I sent everyone. So if you want to take a look at those while we're going
Did
through.
you get us that too?
Beth's only comment was, let's see, was about fences and defining what a privacy fence was.
I can't hear. Couldn't hear you.
Becca, we can't hear you
You can't hear me?
from down there.
Okay. It's too loud. Oh, okay. Sorry. I feel like I'm a basketball announcer right now. So Beth's only comment was that we need to define what a privacy fence is, height restrictions, material restrictions, and she thinks that was the only thing that wasn't clear. We do have some height restrictions, but I'll get to that when we get to the fence section. But those are in the UDO, not in BAR guidelines. So I'm just going to go through this first section that I have up on your screen in front of you about foundations. Beyond what Tim and Rachel have put in their comments, is there anything that y'all want to change, you want to add? I'll go through what Rachel wants to change first. It's the one with the red comments. So she agreed to both A and B, which discuss the foundation being compatible with the architectural style. Slab on grade style foundations are not historically appropriate and should be avoided. She wanted to add a new point that raised slab foundations were not historically accurate and should be avoided. Thank you, Chelsea. That's gonna be tough because we have approved many raised slabs. I don't think we've told people that that's not something they can do. But if that's what you want to put in the guidelines,
Well, one of the things, if you look at what we approve now versus what we approved 20 years ago,
mhm,
we have been making our guidelines more stringent and more compatible with historic preservation, as
Mhm.
well as now relying on some good printed guidelines in terms of the National Trust. And, you know, I don't see any problem with our saying from this point on, this is our stance on raised slab
okay,
construction. And it does give the option in there, as if they're dug in about it, we can work with them to make it come out.
yeah, and I mean, if they wanted to appeal that decision, I wouldn't be reviewing it at a staff level anyway, so they're going to be coming before you, but at least we'll have that in there, so if people do come with a design, I can upfront tell them this is not going to be approved.
And this is just for the new construction.
Right.
For people that are redoing something, they're not gonna have to lift up anything.
No, yeah, just for new construction.
Well, I like what Tim's comments are on the next page, having to do with the same thing. It's a little more detailed about what
Right.
would be approved.
So raising at least 30 inches above final finish grade, concrete block on concrete stem walls must have 3/4 stucco applied over foundations walls. Skim coat stucco, wow, he did really get into detail. Okay,
I mean, the point is that if it was approved, there need to be some
correct.
guidelines, what Tim has
Right.
said as to what might be approved, but
Okay, well, so,
Also like his comment about asking Rachel to provide the details of the true architectural detail of what we're talking about.
he may have to foot the bill on that one, but yeah, the two sketches that I had included in the email were just examples. I would delete probably most of the terms that they had on there, because as Tim commented that, and I think Rachel had commented that just below there, that the detail would have, the detail does have things that y'all don't have purview over. But a lot of people don't understand the difference between raised slab versus slab on grade. So maybe I can have it put in there where it just shows what is what,
right.
rather than
right.
saying, this is exactly what we want you to do. And then if Rachel can come up with something that fits what we usually request people to do, we can include that, because I don't want to reinvent the wheel, but I also don't want to slap something in our guidelines that's not going to inform people
I think we ought to
correctly.
be very careful about proscribing details
Yeah,
of how this is done.
Gotcha. Understood.
that's true.
I personally, I don't see why anybody would want a concrete slab raised. I mean, I've been around construction all my life. I mean, if, number one, if you're gonna raise a slab, first you've got to compact the ground underneath it almost to 100% to ensure that the concrete is not going to crack. And concrete is very unforgiving as for finish and for everything. And if anything ever goes wrong, for instance, the pipe breaks, or if you've got your power run underneath, digging up a concrete slab is not an easy
That's worse than
situation.
removing plaster walls.
I'd rather take plaster walls out any day than, but a concrete slab is just, I've seen too many times where people want to change where the bathroom was in the house. And all of a sudden, that means that they've got to tear up the entire floor in that area to redo the plumbing underneath it. Whereas, like my house has got a wood floor and a 4-foot crawl space underneath it. And I can run anything I want underneath there without worrying about any of the structure. So
Well, let's keep moving on, y'all, because I want to get through these. So that sounds like A through C for foundations, we're good with including both Rachel and Tim's comments. And then I'll work on getting some just example details for what different types of foundations are for people. And then I'll talk to Rachel about the possibility of drawing up something for specifically for the historic district.
Scrap the images you've got in here right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tim made a point about this image. This is the one that he sent. But he wanted to include that we need to have something that shows appropriate window details so people can understand what, because we have it written what simulated divided light is, but people seem to miss that constantly. So I think the visual will help. So I'll go ahead and add that in as well. Under D, did y'all have any comments that specifically addresses the transition to the body of the house? That they should have a band board and a drip cap as shown in the picture, which we can also ask, that'll be part of what we ask Rachel to.
I think that's pretty clear.
Okay. So we'll move right along to sheds. So I have it typed out as what it currently reads and then what I would revise it to read. So basically, let's see, shed should be small in scale and congruous with the style of the primary building, including colors and materials. Prefabricated non-permanent sheds are not appropriate for the historic district and should be avoided. Prefabricated sheds may be permitted on a case-by-case basis, dependent on the quality of materials and design. And then prefabricated sheds, if deemed acceptable, cannot be visible from any right-of-way.
That's what we
Well,
said.
I would wonder about that if we approved a really nice prefabricated shed on Carolina.
Mhm.
That it depends on what you mean by prefabricated. Being going and picking one up with a forklift off of the Home Depot lot, that's one kind. But there are companies that make
Modular ones that you can put
ones
together.
that are built off-site.
Yeah.
That are very nice as we dealt with that one. So I think maybe coming up with different verbiage. And at one time, the thinking about some of these storage sheds was that since if they were going to be non-permanent structures, then we weren't so stressed out about the details
Well,
because they could be moved. So
that, the other problem with that is we can't, there's no way we can keep up with if they remove it or not. And from a zoning perspective, what you're putting there, if it's permanent to us, it doesn't matter if it's on skids or.
that I think we should go push toward the higher end of the scale and say that, you know, storage sheds or small buildings need to be architecturally sound in their appearance and congruous with the neighborhood and with the house that they go with.
And that's kind of what we said 2 months ago. I don't know how you word that, but that if it's prefab, they can be, adjustments can be made, windows, porches.
Yeah,
Things can be done to make it look
That was kind of what I was trying to say in E and F. If you want me to be more explicit about that.
I think that sentence says it all.
Yeah, yeah.
Sheds may be permitted on a case-by-case basis, depending on the quality of materials and design. To me, that covers it.
Okay.
But then, like David said, you go down here to F. I mean, if one looks good, but it is prefab, does that mean that it can't be in the right of way? So I have to be careful about that, I think.
I could add, unless otherwise,
Or just take it off.
we can just take it off.
I mean, that's just,
Well,
I
But-
know we wanted to have something about being visible from any right of way. So
and
do you want me to lean
Maybe
towards should not be visible?
exceptions can be made on a case-by-case basis. Because once again, when you get to corner lots, you have a real problem with an accessory building potentially being not somebody doing their best to hide it from one street, but you can't hide it from the other.
Instead of cannot, would we say should not,
Should not, that's,
yeah, maybe that's a better word.
should not be
Should not.
visible?
That
And
kinda
even
reads a
say
little
if
bit of-
possible, should not.
I think should not is good because I think you're gonna have a lot of people saying it's not possible. I park my trailer here.
Should not kind of gives you a little bit of an opening, I think.
Yeah. I think that that'll cover that. Do we have any other notes you want me to? And I'm gonna be sending this back to y'all, so you'll be able to see it again before it goes into the guidelines. If not, we'll move on to garages. I should tease you and be like, Chelsea, you want to take this one? So detached garages should be utilized over attached garages as they are more historically appropriate. If an attached garage is proposed, the garage door should not face the right of way. Rachel added a note, or can be heavily landscaped to fully screen the shed from view. I am fine with her point, but at the same time, you're gonna get a lot of people saying stuff about privacy fences and other things that we don't want visible. People will say, well, why can't I heavily landscape it? So I don't think that's an issue. It just is opening the door for that to be,
We just approved the privacy fence on that house that has the pool.
Yeah.
I think-
Well, there's a lot of lots that don't have a room for you to be able to go around the side to go into the garage. And one of the worst looking houses to me is the one that's got a long blank thing with two windows in it that you see it from the street, doggone well, it's the garage. I mean, what, you might as well have the doors there and decent doors than having those two windows staring at you.
and remember, this would just be for an attached garage. So I understand what you're saying, but we are gonna have those lots that they're, Heath's lot was a perfect example over off of,
And sorry,
yes, hands right, thank you. He didn't have room for a detached garage. And with the garage, it just wasn't possible. So we can delete this number 2 here about the attached garage and the garage doors. I mean, there are things in the UDO that say if you have garage doors that face the right of way, they have to be a minimum of 20 feet from that right of way. And some of the right of ways in the historic district are very wide. So
do we have anything about the description of what a garage door should look like?
it talks about the appropriate hardware on a garage, but we don't have, I think there's maybe like 1 or 2 pictures. Yeah, like under garage conversions, they're like on the 114 South Walnut property. There's some garage doors that, well, y'all might have approved these. I can get examples that we've approved.
Yeah,
you've
I think we
approved.
should use
Yeah.
examples that we've.
Okay.
My feeling is that we should leave B off.
Okay.
Leave it at detached garages should be, detached garages should be utilized.
Yeah, that was me typing without coffee, so.
Just should be utilized.
Yeah,
Forget the R.
yeah, right. Should be utilized over attached garages as they more historically appropriate. That doesn't mean that it cannot be approved
Right,
to have another one. It would have to come and be approved.
right.
And then leave B off and
Okay.
that'll be part of the approval, I think.
And then add examples of appropriate garage doors
Uh-huh.
that we've approved. Okay.
What the guidelines now say about the doors is use appropriate carriage style doors and hardware. So that's already in there.
Well, a lot of people don't know what carriage style doors are,
Yeah,
Well,
give.
or
some
they think
examples.
barn doors.
Yeah.
They just
We
think
can
that.
You can put some examples in there with, next to that verbiage.
Okay,
well,
all right.
Or you can show them what we don't want, which is a roll-up
yeah,
door.
of course, I mean, if you're going to get to that extent of a building, a garage and all in addition or whatever, hopefully you're going to get an architect to do it.
Well.
And they know
you-
what a carriage.
You use the word hopefully.
Well,
We're saying it's supposed to be conducive to the design of the house. We can say that is not conducive to the design of
Correct.
the house, of the historic house. We don't have to get that specific, I don't think.
No, I think pictures will help immensely.
Yeah.
Now, whether people even look at the guidelines when I send them to them or not, that's another story, but. All right, so fences is our last item. So privacy fencing should be avoided where possible and will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. I didn't put a location for that, like front yard, backyard, because the UDO does not allow people to put fencing over 4.5 feet in height in their front yard. So, and obviously we've had some projects where someone's rear yard was someone's front yard, but that's something where it would go before y'all, and that's a very specific situation. And then privacy fences on corner lots or in highly visible areas must be reviewed by the board. I think that kind of covers.
You know, I think the privacy fence that was put up along Fifth Street,
Sixth Street.
Sixth
something.
Street, that shields the swimming pool. I think
Oh.
that's come off very nice with the post being stained dark and
Mhm.
it's very simple, but
You don't know how many phone calls I've gotten about that fence. But not that it's bad, they just wanted to know that they had a permit for doing it,
I think they did a very nice.
and they wanted
job.
to know how tall it was.
And also, the people on Sumter have cut down in a stepwise fashion.
The Charleston Street,
they listen to us, huh?
they listened to David.
They listened to Dave. I didn't know what they were gonna do. I'm not sure I particularly like every board slightly different, but still they decided to listen, that the neighbors were not happy about
Mhm.
a stockade fence going all the way to the street.
Didn't want to carry some.
So with this, I put examples of privacy fencing. You know, and I'm gonna have to talk to Jesse about this after we discuss all of this. But are y'all wanting to outright say the fences have to be finished in some sort of way? If they're going to do a privacy fence, like, do you want to get into that level of detail in the guidelines or just say privacy fencing is discouraged?
I'd let him bring it to us. And then.
Yeah, either way, it's gonna come to you. But so the UDO says that I review fences. So typically when I would send them to y'all, if it's in a corner lot or if they are trying to do a crazy design of some sort. Now, if they want to do a privacy fence in their backyard and, they're not a corner lot, typically I would approve that. So this kind of goes against that. So we need to decide if someone wants to do a privacy fence in their backyard, that doesn't matter if it's a corner lot, it has to go before the board, or you want to leave it how we have been doing it.
Becca, what is that? Wouldn't you call that fence that Tom put up on 210 Gum? Isn't that a privacy fence?
Yeah, but it's in his rear yard,
Yeah, I mean, it's in the-
rear and side yard. It's not in the front yard.
no, but this isn't talking about front yard. It's
Right,
period.
that's in the UDO. So in the UDO, it states that you can't have a solid fence or wall that's over 3 feet in the front yard. And then if you have one that's see-through, picket or iron, it can be up to 4.5 feet in the front yard. So the front yard we consider is past the front facade of the house. So I mean, we can refer to that detail, but that's something that I review already. And I mean, I can put a reference to the UDO section in the guidelines. I don't see why that.
I think there's a place for privacy fences in
Yeah.
certain places, so. I don't know.
Yeah, I think, at one time, there was some concern about privacy fencing being, people putting up the kind where you can buy it in 8-foot sections and
Yeah,
just
yeah.
stick it between 2 posts,
Those-
as opposed to most privacy fencing is being put up by fencing companies that actually built the whole thing. Makes a big difference.
Well, if fences were to be something, specifically privacy fences were to be something that had to be reviewed by y'all, not by me on a case-by-case basis, we would have to change the UDO too.
Well, now, in the guideline, there's already, under guideline 19, there's already through D. So we'll need to change those. Instead of being C and D, it'd have to be.
Well, I would move the C and D down.
Hmm?
The existing C and D, I would move those down and add these in as C and D.
Well, I think the question is, do we want to add these? And
Yes, that is the question.
I would only say prefabricated privacy fencing is discouraged or needs to be addressed on a case-by-case basis. I'm not sure it's even still available, but at one time it was.
I think you can still get it.
So for C, it would be prefabricated fencing should be avoided where possible and will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. And then you want to keep D as it is for corner lots or highly visible areas.
Yeah, leave that.
Because I mean, that's how I'm handling it now.
Yeah.
Is I just tell them I can't review it.
All right.
Beth did have the point that she thought that we should have something that clarifies what a privacy fence is, which pictures, again, I can do that.
Yeah, that'd be the, how are you gonna describe that? A privacy fence is something that keeps things.
Keeps
private.
the looky-loos out.
It's one that has no trespassing signs every 5 feet.
Right, there you go.
Okay, so pictures will
Any fence
suffice
you
for
can't
that.
see over, see under, or see through.
Yeah.
Or there's a gun sign on the front.
But that means that if your neighbor is 7 foot,
Yeah.
then you,
The height of the fence depends on how tall your neighbor is.
Well, that's all I have, y'all. If there's anything else that you want to add, now's the time.
I think that pretty well addresses what our concerns were from that
Okay,
session we had.
You extrapolated well.
I try. All right, well, that's all I have under miscellaneous, except for the fact that Jeff is leaving us.
Yeah, this is my last meeting.
What you doing?
Mary and I are moving to the lake. So
Going to that lake life.
we're not gonna be Dorchester residents.
We do. They need to be, they need to be a broker.
I will miss it
and-
too. So,
Jeff, your only requirement is that you're in real estate, not, because you don't live in the district anymore, right?
Not the historic district.
But you live in Somerville.
I would like to be on the board.
They're gonna post it. I think Beth has to post it for like 15 days or some amount of time. We did have one person who applied previously. Um,
I don't think it stipulates that the real estate person has
I'm
to
in real estate.
live in Somerville.
we'll put your name in.
no,
I live in this-
no, it's
We don't
not.
do it.
They
Planning
can be
does.
one of the at-large members, but it has to be someone with a real estate license.
Yeah,
So,
I no longer have stock building on my garage.
Well,
Never mind.
I know, we're already looking for your replacement, Jeff. We're like, get out of here.
So you're not interested in coming into the meetings?
well, I thought I had to be a Dorchester County resident.
No,
Huh?
well,
look at Nancy Jean.
If you apply.
As long as the council approves,
yeah,
everybody approves.
that's the main
Yeah.
thing is the council has to approve it.
I think I should step aside. Been about 10 years. I think.
But yeah, spread the word other than.
That's a short time.
I know.
Let's see how it is.
I know, I mean, you know, but then I'd have to block you on email because
I
you
think
can't be emailing a bunch of stuff about projects.
Becca, do we need a motion to,
Yes, please.
I move that we adjourn.
Oh.
a second? Anybody second it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.